Inquisitor was always my favorite hit for the Paladin in Baldur's Gate 2. It forsook the typical priestly approach of turning undead and focused more on breaking crowd control effects and a sort of unstoppable force. We get something similar here with the Oath of Vengeance in Baldur's Gate 3, but I decided to take those effects and go an even wilder route. What if we sprinkled in some sneak attack and really leaned into the crit striking effects capable in this game? Well, in this video today, we'll be going and doing just that with my Inquisitor build, taking the innate destructive power of the Smite and mixing it with the spell casting of the Arcane Trickster to get a truly wild take on Paladin. If this is your first time on my channel, the way I do things is by upfronting the knowledge of my videos so you can decide if it's the right one for you. So with that being said, we'll start out as an Oath of Vengeance Paladin and take 5 levels immediately. This will also give us a character that, via the tenets, pursues the lesser of two evils, a bit loose of a Paladin as it were. Then we'll take 7 levels into Rogue with Arcane Trickster. I had originally thought of this build going Assassin, but I needed more spell slots, so Arcane Trickster was a solution. This will give us Smite, the shield spell, hold person, misty step, and a lot of other really fun capabilities. That's really the too long didn't watch this entire video, and if that's all you wanted to know, then please just feel free to shut the video down and go back to having fun in BG3. Before you head out, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Each one of those things does help me out in a huge way. I've gone from like 89% to 80% unsubscribed viewership because of your help, but that's a number I'd still like to get lower, and every little bit does help. You can jump ahead to any part of the video that interests you the most using the chapters with the timeline in the description, and if you need help with any other subject in Baldur's Gate 3, check out my playlist link below, at the end of the video, upper right corner. It's all over the place, I promise. Well, let's get started here on my Inquisitor Paladin build in Baldur's Gate 3. Loading into the game, let's go into some character creation. And really, you can go anywhere with this. It's just going to come down to the race you want to play. This is a single-player narrative game, so have fun. Choose whatever one that's going to make sense for you and the playstyle you have in mind. Here's some standout options that I really like, though. Half-Orc is always going to be really good because of savage attacks. We are going to be using melee weapons, and this is going to be cool. When you land a critical hit with a melee weapon, you deal an extra dice of weapon damage. This will go really well with the feat Savage Attacker that we'll be taking at level 4. So it's a really good one. They kind of work in conjunction. Also, Relentless Endurance is really great here because when you reach 0 hit points, you just regain 1 hit point instead of becoming down. So you're just up in the fight a lot longer. It's probably maybe the go-to pick. Two really other good ones are both the Gold Dwarf, that just is going to give us a ton more hit points, and the Dwagar. The Dwagar are cool because they're going to give us access to 2 cantrips in specific, Invisibility and Enlarge. Both of those can really help us out with this class because we are going with a stealthier type route, which is kind of weird for a Paladin, right? But Enlarge will allow us to do, I think it's like 1d4 additional damage, so it's cool that we'll be able just to kind of do that on demand whenever we want. The rests aside, of course, but I do like that capability. And also we have an innate advantage on saving throws against illusions and being charmed or paralyzed, which is awesome, as well as just innately being a dwarf, getting a resistance and advantage on saving throws against poison. All really great things. The half-elf in specific Wood Elf is a really good one here because of the increased movement, and Wood Elves get stealth as a proficiency of a skill, so I don't actually have to waste the skill proficiency on it. And the same thing with perception, I believe, when it comes to the Wood Elf, which is just overall a really cool option. Outside of that, though, you can go with something like a human, get increased carry capacity and an additional skill to be proficient in, or halflings who get their halfling luck. When you roll a 1 for an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw, you can re-roll the die and must use the new roll. Always great options, but I think that if you've not played through the game, or maybe this is your second or third playthrough and you haven't played through as one, the Gith is just a really strong choice because we are going to lean into a little bit of the mage hand aspects of the game because we're going with an Arcane Trickster. The Ledger Main of the Arcane Trickster's mage hand isn't as awesome as it is in 5th edition, but there are a lot of really cool Gith armor pieces, weapons, additional slot items like boots and gloves that are exclusive to them. They have special things that happen in the story that are exclusive to them, and they are really awesome. They have this action, astral knowledge, gain proficiency in all skills of a chosen ability. It's just, I think it's the least played race, but it's a really, really cool race as far as the game is concerned. I just wouldn't go with the crackhead version. I'd go probably with the female one. Looks a little bit better. So those are my recommendations here. Tieflings are always great too. I personally I think it's one of my favorite Paladin races. if I was going to go with one, though, I would go with either Asmodeus or Mephistopheles, because the Zariel Tieflings, they're going to get 3 cantrips. Thaumaturgy is great, but the other 2, Searing and Branding Smite, are ones that you're going to get as a paladin anyway. So you might as well get Mephistopheles or Asmodeus Tieflings, which gives you access to some better cantrips that better cantrips that you wouldn't get access to otherwise. Now, class, Paladin, of course, and then subclass, we're going with the Oath of Ancients. Vengeance. What a great video this is. But the big focus here is going to be Inquisitor's Might, which is going to be nice. This is going to do radiant damage based off of our Charisma modifier. And we are going to focus on Charisma as part of our ability scores. It sucks that it can daze enemies and just only last for 1 turn. It's not that great. We're actually looking for the abilities we get at level 3 with Oath of Vengeance that are going to be particularly good. But this is the nice one to start off with. For the background, it's going to be entirely up to you. Please, as always, create a little background for your character and really kind of sink into it. Have some fun with it, because the background are going to give you inspirations that you can use to re-roll things in the game, like maybe a missed persuasion check or insight check or a trap disarm, whatever it is. So have fun with this. Make it mean something for you and your character. There's no reason to min-max your way through this. Maybe you're a noble son who's become a paladin. Maybe you're a criminal who has reformed their ways and has become a paladin, but still has their arcane trickster portion of their personality built into them. The same thing with an entertainer or a charlatan, whatever it is. My min-max pick, the one I kind of choose if I can't think of anything, is just Guild Artisan, because this grants me insight and persuasion, which are skills that I just then don't need to worry about when it comes to this screen. And in that case too, I would say choose something that's going to make sense here. Persuasion, since we already have that selected, we don't need to put a point into it. But having another conversational skill is great, because we will be a charisma-based character. I would skip out on medicine for this character, but having religion would be nice. Athletics, if you so wish. We're not going to focus on strength, but it can be nice to actually have a +2 here to resist being shoved or allow you a little bit of extra advantages when it comes to shoving things. And having that innate bonus here into insight is always going to be nice. So I'd probably go with something like this. Let's now talk about those ability points. So your ability points are going to skew heavily towards dexterity and charisma. Those are our big action items. We're going to be using finesse weapons, because finesse weapons are the only weapons that will allow you to do sneak attack. Finesse weapons means, of course, that they will use your dexterity modifier over your strength modifier, assuming it is higher, of course. Now, this will also give us a bonus to our armor class. Keep in mind, though, until the later portions of the game, the only thing that's going to allow you to get that full benefit of armor class is probably going to be light armor. Medium armor will cap out at +2. We can use heavy armor, but it will impose a disadvantage on stealth checks, so we'll probably skew away from that, except for some minor options throughout the game. Or if you want to do it, just go ahead and do it. We're going to go with 14 Constitution, which is going to give us a little bit of good health. It's just going to give us good health, but also to help us out on any kind of concentration rolls we've got to make. Remember, a concentration roll is a constitution check. So having this here is going to be nice, because we are a paladin and they have tons of concentration spells. Then lastly, we have 16 points here into charisma. This is going to help us out with anything like, hey, over here with this Inquisitor's Might, or anything that's going to give us a bonus from our charisma modifier, which we will have plenty of items that will do that. Now, you can decide for yourself, are you playing through the new honor mode that was added to the game? And you don't want to rely on stuff like the Hag's Hair, not to spoil anything for anyone who's new to the game. Well, then this is probably a good split. You can probably put these 2 points into strength just so you have a little bit more carry capacity. We're not using strength at all. But if you aren't doing that, or you do plan on getting Anti-Ethel's Hair, or whatever it is, go ahead and put that point right there into dexterity. Or you can put that point down here into charisma if you so wish. Swap these around. You can do something like that. If you want to lean heavier on the charisma modifier, it just depends on, do you want to do more damage with your weapon, or do you want to do more damage with a lot of the effects that will bounce off of your charisma modifier? My personal opinion is do this route if you wanted to jump to 17 dex, because we have a lot of ways we can bring our dexterity up throughout a bunch of items and things in the game. Now, when it comes to the progression for this character, let's take a look at what this looks like. So with our fighting style, you can take this a number of ways. There are 2 weapons in the game. Well, there are 3 weapons in the game that are 2-handed weapons that are finesse weapons, and you can benefit from the great weapon fighting capability here. You'll get the first one in Act 1 in the Underdark, and then the other one is in the Mountain Pass, and then the last one is in Act 3. So if you want to take that route, you definitely can here. You'd go you go to great weapon fighting, and this is what you'd stick with. My personal opinion, though, just to give you a wider access to a lot more weapons, and I think it's a little bit of a cooler stance for the character, go with dueling. When you are wielding a melee weapon that is not two-handed or versatile in one hand and no weapon in the other, no weapon in the other can be a shield. So you can have a weapon in one hand and a shield in the other. You deal an additional 2 damage with that weapon. So this is just a flat 2 damage increase anytime you're basically using a sword and board or just one weapon. And I definitely recommend it for this build. Now, for spells too here, I would assume that you're probably going to take another character with you, especially, this build works really well with just Shadowheart as a trickery domain cleric, and I would almost never recommend that. So I will be honest with you, that is a pretty cool thing to go with here. But you can go with like all the smites, a kind of a fun thing to add into this build. Bless, I'd probably pull in from another character since I'm going to be up close and personal, and I don't want to kind of get my concentration knocked off. You can get like something like Shield of Faith here if you want to have that. I mean, it's okay. Divine Favor can be cool. Just keep in mind that everything I've selected are all, well, Thunderous Smite is not, but these other ones are all concentration abilities, so they will not overlap. It's either going to be one or the other. And Heroism can be a fun one, but at the beginning of the game, we're not really too concerned with anything other than our capability to smite stuff. And at level 2, this is going to be just fine. You're going to have other characters that are going to be able to bridge the gaps in your build. And as we jump into level 3, we get 2 of the really strong actions with the Oath of Vengeance. The main thing here is Abjure Enemy, which is going to be great. That's not the main thing here. That's one of the ones that I wanted to talk about. I thought it was the main one. Frightens an enemy. They'll have disadvantage on ability checks and attack rolls, and they cannot move. Fiends and Undead have disadvantage on their saving throw. A great capability, but this is the one. Vow of Enmity. Now, you would think you're going to cast this on a target, right? Gain advantage on attack rolls against an enemy. If you cast this on yourself, you have advantage on everything for 10 turns. Sneak attack, you don't need to be sneaking to do it. You just simply need to have advantage on the target or have an ally within, I think it's 10 feet or 5 feet. So this allows you to sneak attack everything, as long as you don't have a disadvantage that cancels that out. This is stupid strong for this build, and we need it. So we have it right here. Also, too, we get this capability of Divine Health, so we can't be diseased. The divine magic flowing within you prevents disease from affecting you. We get Bane and Hunter's Mark. Hunter's Mark can be fun as far as a conditional spell, but for the most part, we're just going to stick with what we've got and bring ourselves up to level 4. Same kind of situation here. Just choose spells that are going to fit with your party setup that you've got. Let's now talk about our feat selections. And feat is really going to come down to kind of what you've gone with, right? Have you gone with that two-handed weapon fighting, then you're going to want to pick up Great Weapon Master eventually. But I think the first one that we'll pick up, regardless of anything we do, is going to be Savage Attacker. When making melee weapon attacks, you roll your damage dice twice and use the highest result. So basically you have advantage on them, more or less, right? But outside of that, some of the really big standout ones, of course, ability improvement is always good. You can just pop 2 points into charisma or get your dexterity up to 20 if you get something that pushes it to 18, whatever it is. Alert is what I meant, is +5 bonus to initiative and can't be surprised. It's actually a very, very good one for this build, and I really like it. It's always just a really strong feat in general. Another really cool one too, since we are going with the duelist route, is Defensive Duelist. When attacked while wielding a finesse weapon you are proficient with, you can use a reaction to add your proficiency bonus to your armor class, possibly causing the attack to miss. I think that this is like the only time I'd recommend this, because you are going to be a frontline style fighter. You are going to have the ability to sneak attack whenever you want. You don't need to skulk around to create it. So the fun thing here is you can use this to add a little bit more defensive capability to your character if you're finding that you're really suffering because you're not in heavy armor or whatever the situation is. So you can have a lot of fun with just simply sprinkling this into the character and just do a lot of damage or do a lot of defensive capabilities with it. So I like this quite a bit. But the first one we're going to start off here with is Savage Attacker. Again, also too, outside of that, you can get stuff like Resilient for dexterity to add a single point, or Constitution to help out with any of your Constitution checks for concentration if you'd like. Lucky is always a really good one here. I really like it a lot. Athlete's always good too as well. This will give you 1 point if you miss out on it, because when you're prone, standing up uses significantly less movement, and your jump distance also increases by 50%. So this gives you a little bit of mobility, and it helps from getting up from prone. All those are really just great things to have. Let's go ahead and grab Savage Attacker and move on. Now, into level 5 is the big reason that we went 5 levels into Paladin, and it's to pick up extra attack. This is when we're going to start migrating off of Paladin and onto Rogue. And we want to go an odd number into Rogue because that gives us more sneak attack damage. Every odd number, our sneak attack damage goes up. So that's why we've gone 5-7 with this build. And with pair spells here, we can kind of drop some of our level 1 spells we don't want. So let's go ahead and we'll drop that and that, and we'll put Aid in because it's just a free 5 hit points to our max if we so wish. Magic Weapon here is great because we can just add +1 bonus to attack and damage rolls. I really like it. You can put in Branding Smite if you really want to do that. You can put in Protection from Poison, which is cool because it lasts until long rest. It just takes a spell slot. So I would say I'd probably not use anything like this because our spell slots are our resources for our Smite, but there's still, you can replenish a single spell slot plenty of ways in this game. This is just a nice way to kind of get a little buff onto something, whatever it is. Let's go ahead and take that, accept that, and now pivot, as they would say in the hit comedy show Friends, into Rogue. And now we have also some abilities we can choose. So up to this point, we haven't really needed to stealth. But now we can not only stealth, but we can get an expertise into it. And because I'm a wood elf, I naturally have that as a proficiency. So I can put that proficiency somewhere else. So if I have someone who's already my like thiefy pick my lock character, I don't need to do this, you know, but this gives me the chance to also do that with my build. Go sleight of hand and stealth, get a +7 into both, and allows me to kind of really be a bit of a jack of all trades in a lot of ways. But you know what? Like I said, if I already have a character who's going to be my thievery character, well, maybe I just go ahead and put that expertise into persuasion now. And now I'm really good at talking my way through things. Whatever the situation is, you don't need to go with sleight of hand if you don't want at all. It's a really cool way to, you know what, hey, you know what, we'll drop sleight of hand. Let's also put it into deception here. So do whatever you what kind of makes sense for your party makeup, less so than the actual character, right? What other characters are augmenting the skills that you're going with. But we definitely want to get our stealth up so that we can stealth around and slam the hell out of things with a lot of fun weapons. Let's go ahead and take that, accept, and push on to the next portion. Into Rogue level 2, we just simply get our cunning actions. Into Rogue level 3, we choose our subclass. Now, like I said, I originally had wanted to do this as Assassin, and if you can find a way to make this build work with Assassin, I am all for it. Let me know. It'll be stupid strong. But Arcane Trickster is where we will go right now because this will give us more spell slots. Of course, we get the Ledger Main here of Mage Hand, which again is not that cool here in Baldur's Gate 3 like it is in 5th edition. It can't use all the cool like trap disarming capabilities and so on and so forth, but we still get cantrips and other fun things. So Blade Ward is a really good cantrip since we are going to be in melee combat. Really, really recommend this one. Another good one is Shocking Grasp, because again, we're going to be in melee combat. This spell has advantage on creatures with metal armor as well. It's just a nice bit of damage. You can use Friends if you don't have anyone that can cast Friends in your party. Just keep in mind, if you are playing on a harder difficulty, this can make things go aggro towards you if once the spell wears off. So just kind of be mindful of that. If you're playing a character that doesn't have dark vision, using something like light or dancing lights can help. And minor illusion's also cool because you create an illusion and they go and investigate it here. So you can use this and kind of sneak around, do some fun stuff when it comes to like stealing from people, whatever it is. Now into some spells. Now the tricky thing here is you don't have a lot of intelligence. That's your primary spellcasting characteristic. But we are also pulling from our charisma in certain situations. So right now here, you'll notice if I hover over these, if it says this right here, that's the spellcasting ability it's going to use. The spellcasting ability stuff here, ignore that up there. It's a really convoluted system, but we're not looking to use these spells to necessarily help us. We're using these spells just to get more spell slots more than anything. So let's do that. In our expanded spell list, let's pick up Shield. That's crucial because Shield is now going to give us a reaction on really dire circumstances to just simply trigger Shield and block a lot of damage, whatever the situation is. It's a really, really good thing to use here. And we're going to accept that. And now we jump here into our 4th level. We're going to get more spells. Just simply choose one. We're going to replace them at a later date. Maybe go Charm Person. These other two are just really not helpful. And again, for our feat, you can just choose whatever one is going to make sense for how you've built out the character. Alert is going to be really helpful as our secondary one. You know what, though? I'm going to go with... I'll just go with... You know what? I'll go with Charisma here. I was going to go with Defensive Duelist, but... I'll just go ahead and go Charisma, add a little bit more damage into that. Press Accept. We get to Rogue level 5, and that's going to give us our Uncanny Dodge. So when an attack hits you, you only take half the usual damage, which is really, really cool with this build. And Accept again to level 6. Level 7 is when we get a whole bunch of new spells. We can get some more skills here. We can put this into wherever we want. Insight, Deception, Intimidation, wherever you so wish. Whatever makes sense for your character. And now we get new spells. So the tricky thing here is we get more spells added in at this level, but we can have a little fun with this replace spell capability. So right here, we can get invisibility. We can get mirror image. This helps out with some armor class. We can get blur, which is really cool. Attackers have disadvantage on attack rolls against you. What I want you to think of, though, is pick spells here in this situation that won't require your intelligence. You can get the crown that sets your intelligence to 17, but that then requires you to take an item off of your helmet that would give you better melee damage. And that's the focus of this character, not necessarily being an offensive caster. So using stuff like invisibility augments your abilities, right? Use invisibility, now you're invisible, you can strut around the battlefield, do whatever you want. Use mirror image, you just got more armor class, cool. Use this, people have disadvantage on rolls against you. I don't really care to give Crown of Madness or Phantasmal Force from this character. I'd rather pull that from a different one. So think of defensive abilities here. And we already got Hold Person as an Oath of Vengeance Paladin, which is keying off of our charisma. So we don't need that here. So I'll just go ahead and choose Blur, because we're going to go to replace spell and change and swap out Disguise Self with all this expanded list, which is super helpful because now we can get that invisibility that we passed up on just a second ago. We can get enlarge or reduce here, make a creature larger or smaller to affect their weapon damage and strength checks and saving throws. We can go ahead and get that mirror image that we passed up on. We already have Misty Step as a paladin, so we don't need that here. But you see, we can even get darkness to really hinder our enemies as we're going through stuff. Or if you can get dark vision or blindness, whatever it is, you have so many ways you can lean into different directions with this character now with just this simple spell slot. Now, I wish you could get more, you could replace more, but unfortunately you cannot. You know what I'll simply do, though, is, what did we take for the last one? We took Blur. I'll just grab invisibility. So now we just have a set way to cast invisibility if we absolutely need it. And that concludes our build for the character. Let's take a look at what all this looks like together. So taking a look at everything put together, I've kind of organized our bar because it's pretty messy when you first jump out of character creation. You can see that we've got a lot of fun stuff. We can go through all of our many smites right here, even the actual smite that we've got. We've got our sneak attack capabilities. Now take a look at that. 17 to 47 damage coming out of it. It has extra damage coming in, of course, because I have a weapon that does necrotic damage. But it's doing a lot of damage. And if I look at our smite, it's going to do 15 to 39 or 16 to 47. And remember, we can set it so that our smite acts reactively off of just a normal weapon hit or a critical hit. And that can include our sneak attack. So having that capability to just kind of really ramp up sneak attack is super strong. We're punching really, really heavy with this ability. And remember, sneak attack, as we take a look here, deal extra damage to a foe you have advantage against. You can also sneak attack targets threatened by an adjacent ally, provided you aren't attacking with disadvantage. So having that on too just gives us so many ways to do sneak attacks. Now remember, you can only do a sneak attack once per turn. You can't just simply spam sneak attack, but that's not the case with Divine Smite. As long as you've got the spell slots, you can do it. And like I said too, with this setup, this gives us 7 total spell slots, so there's a lot of fun there. With our Channel Oath, we have got our Abjure Enemy, our Vow of Enmity we talked about, and Inquisitor's Might +3 here. And when it comes to, we have some minor healing too with lay on hands, which is, I guess, worth noting. But take a look at the setup I've got here. We've got blur, we've got invisibility, we've got bane because it's just included as part of our kit. But I have hold person, which uses my charisma modifier. So I actually can get this to go off, which is great because when you hold a person, every hit is a critical hit. Attacks from within 10 feet are always crit hits. That is huge. That is a ton of damage we can just unload and boat off onto someone, which is super cool. And you have a lot of fun too with Shocking Grasp as a cantrip. So, you know, hey, I don't really have, I'm out of Divine Smites. This thing's right next to me. I might as well do 3 to 24 damage. Even just my generic kit does 13 to 23 damage because I'm using a specific weapon, which we'll go into just a little bit. And we have all of our cunning actions. So even if all of our actions are out, we can use these bonus actions to have a little bit of fun. Our bonus actions too, we have quite a bit, right? Like that Valve Immunity is a bonus action. So we can do that to open up our entire turn and then go through whatever we wanted to do with our primary actions, having advantage on those actions the entire time, right? When it comes to those attack rolls. So let's now talk about gear and then show off some combat. When it comes to gear, we've got a lot of items to talk about, but let me go through the ones I actually don't have on this character first. And you're going to get them through certain points of the game, actually very early in the game. First off here is the Holy Lance Helm. Creatures who miss their attack rolls against the wearer must make a dexterity saving throw or take 1 to 4 radiant damage. This couples with this, the Luminous Armor. You're going to get this in Act 1 as well, right in the Underdark. When the wearer deals radiant damage, they cause a radiant shockwave. That radiant shockwave puts radiant orbs on, and that radiant orbs makes it so that things have a reduction to their attack roll. So you put these two things in conjunction with the radiant armor, radiant damage you already can do through Divine Smite, through your Inquisitor's Might capability, through some of the other things I'm going to show you in a little bit. And you just have so much radiant stacking damage that's going to carry you through a lot of the early game. Eventually, you're going to get the Band of the Mystic Scoundrel in Act 3 here. After hitting a creature with a weapon attack, you can cast Illusion or Enchantment spells as a bonus action. Since we've got a lot of these as a Arcane Trickster, we can lean into them quite a bit, and it's a lot of fun to just kind of use them as you wish. And also in the vein of Act 1 items too, even though we just talked about an Act 3 item, you have the Diadem of Arcane Synergy. So if you don't want to go with all that radiant damage, you do get the Diadem of Arcane Synergy in around the same area in Act 1 in the Mountain Pass. When you inflict a condition, gain Arcane Synergy for 2 rounds. That adds your spellcasting ability to your weapon damage. So since Charisma is our spellcasting capability, we add that in and we do a ton of damage with it. It's a really nice way to just kind of help lean into our Paladin goodness anyway, that we're kind of taking that hybrid route. And the last item here is the Dark Justiciar gauntlets that I don't have, but your weapon attacks deal an additional 1 to 4 necrotic damage. So this is, again, another item you could use in lieu of leaning into all of the radiant damage and just have something that has a reactive additional damage that you do whenever you hit things. But outside of all that, let's go through the items that I do actually have. And we're going to start off with our weapons. So you have access to a ton of weapons with this build because you're just using finesse weapons. Any finesse weapon you get that you like, that you want to stick around with, use it. You can use a lot of the more fun stuff that you'll get, but I think the very first one that you'll unlock that is a pretty decent finesse weapon is the Falar Eluve. You can just still stick with Duelist here. You won't get the +2 bonus from it, but this is a very good weapon that you're going to use for a good chunk of Act 1. You'll get it right there in the Underdark, but there's lots of daggers and short swords in Act 1 that you can use that are very, very strong. If you do want to stick with the two-handed route instead, this is the other finesse two-handed weapon I talked about, the Dancing Breeze. It does a lot of damage. It's a two-handed weapon, so it'll benefit from Great Weapon Mastery, and it has this really cool capability of Whirlwind Attack. Strike out at all nearby foes, making separate attack rolls against each target. So this gives you a ton of capabilities to do a lot of AoE damage, and I think, I don't know, I've not tested it, but I think you can actually add Divine Smites to each one of those Whirlwind Attacks when it goes off. Just, it requires a short rest in between, so you can't like spam this ability, which sucks. Some other really cool ones, though, are in Act 3, you get the Ambusher, gain a +1 bonus to initiative rolls and advantage on perception ability checks. In combat, you deal an additional 1 to 6 necrotic against creatures that haven't taken a turn yet. So much like the Ambusher capability of the actual Assassin. Or Belm is just a really good one here because it has a bonus action, or Perfectly Balanced is a bonus action it can take, where it just does a ton of damage. 13 to 23. And this is 11 to 16 on its own. So you just throw a little bit of spice into this bad boy. and it also gets a whirlwind attack. So you have another really fun finesse scimitar here that you can use. And I'm not using a shield, but you can use a shield, and you can use any shield that you want. You find it, you put it on, you're good to go. You can use any of the shields to add spell slots. There you go. That's just another resource of using smites. The reason I'm not using a shield is because I'm using the duelist's prerogative on this build. Elegant Duelist, while your offhand is empty, you score a crit hit when rolling a 19. Moreover, you get an additional reaction per turn. So I wanted more reactions here. This means I get to use the reaction I get from Defensive Duelist, or maybe the reaction of casting Shield, whatever it is, I get an additional one, because we also get Withering Cut. On a hit with a melee weapon, use a reaction to deal additional necrotic damage equal to your proficiency bonus, and you get Dueler's Enthusiasm. While you are not dual wielding, you can make an additional melee attack with the Dueler. And I love it. This thing just has so many cool fun abilities with it. It's very easy to get in Act 3, in my opinion. So I think all those things kind of work in conjunction, and it's a really fun weapon that I kind of have focused on primarily for this build. Now, outside of all of our weapons, let's talk about probably the main piece is our chest piece. Now, you can go with the Elegant Studded Armor, which gives you an increase to your initiative and helps out with that stuff. I like the Dark Justiciar half plate. While obscured, the wearer has advantage on stealth checks, which is cool, advantage on Constitution saving throws. It fits the overall look of the character, that's why I went with it. But I think probably the Armor of Agility is another one of the best in slot items here. Add your full Dex modifier to your armor class. Additionally, this armor does not impose disadvantage on stealth checks, stealth ability checks. So taking a look here, right? I have 18 AC. If I put this on, I now have 21. So it is probably the better defensive armor. I liked the look of it, so I went with the Dark Justiciar plate for this build. Elven Chain's a good one, though. You are considered proficient in it. The wearer has +2 bonus to initiative rolls and advantage on dex saving throws. Even any of the Drow armor early in Act 1 is really good. The Spider Silk armor here, gain a bonus to stealth checks, advantage on Constitution saving throws, or just a +1 to stealth with a Drow studded leather armor. I don't know why I don't have it in here, but the adamantine chest piece that you get is also really good. Are you wearing it? No, you're not wearing it. The adamantine chest piece you get, the medium armor one, is good. Just I think it does have disadvantage on stealth checks. So keep in mind, you want to steer clear of anything that has disadvantage on stealth checks, because even though you can get advantage on everything through your vow, you still want to try to get any kind of stealthing you can to surprise things to just maximize a lot of your damage. Now, outside of that too, we talked about the radiant damage you can do. If you get these gloves, the luminous gloves, when the wearer deals radiant damage, the target receives 2 turns of radiating orb. This works in conjunction with the chest piece and that helmet we talked about, and the coruscation ring. When the wearer deals spell damage while illuminated by a light source, they also inflict radiating orb. And radiating orb was from that radiating shockwave we talked about, but it's -1 attack roll for each turn remaining. So this just makes it so things can completely whiff and miss you, and it's really nice. It's a great defensive capability to have. I love it. Some other gloves, though, we've got are the Legacy of the Masters, gain a +2 bonus to attack and damage rolls, +1 to strength saving throws, or Gloves of the Battle Mage. When a weapon attack rolls inflicts a condition, the wielder gains Arcane Acuity, which allows you to make things a little bit easier when you're doing a spell attack or spell difficulty class is increased by +1 here. So really great glove items you can go with. For boots, just go with whatever makes sense, right? The Nightwalker's boots are great. The boots of persistence I've got, gain freedom of movement and long strider, those are really expensive in Act 3. But disintegrating Nightwalkers, you get them off of Nier in Act 1. They'll last you the majority of the game if you want, and it just gives you another source of Misty Step, and you can't be enwebbed, entangled, or ensnared. They're great items. It's a great item. When it comes to our headpiece, we have far too many to choose from. In Act 1, you can pretty much choose whatever you want to go with when it comes to how you want to approach the character. Do you want to stealth more? Go with the Covert Cowl. While obscured, the number you need to roll a crit hit while attacking is reduced by 1. Keep in mind, you might think that this means obscured. This does not mean obscured. This little hold down, well, I'm on the keyboard, so hold down shift. That little half, that full sun, that means I am fully visible. This means I am lightly obscured. And when there is no little, it's just completely empty right there, I am heavily obscured. So any variation of that, if I put this on right here, I have that covert critical. Just any portion of being like that, you don't need to be sneaking around. You just simply need to make sure that they can't see you, or you've got that lightly obscured on. Okay, well now I'm fully unobscured. So I lose it. So just simply standing in a different location to someone will allow you to do that, which is really, really nice. Now, outside of that, let's go ahead and put this back on. I tried to sit down on a bench and it messed me up. There we go. Outside of that, though, if you don't want to sneak around, the Helmet of Smiting is really great. When you apply a condition with one of your smite spells, you gain temporary hit points. So it's a nice, just early form of temp hit points, and it is a cool Paladin helmet. You can go with the Flawed Helldusk helmet that you'll get in Act 2. The Wielder has +2 bonus to saving throws against spells. Very good defensive item. Another thing in the Shar Gauntlet, the Dark Justiciar helmet, you get a +1 to bonus to saving throws against spells, but while obscured, same thing here as the Covert Cowl, right? This gives you that +1 to crit hits so that it's easier for you to crit hit. Another cool item, too, is the Gibbous of Worshipful Servant. This is kind of a little bit more of a niche one. At the start of the combat, the wearer gains momentum equal to their charisma modifier, and you gain advantage on concentrating saving throws. It's just probably not the ultimate approach, but if you want to be a character that's like wearing some sort of funky hat, it does work for that overall approach. You even use Birthright too if you wanted. But the helmet I probably chiefly recommend is Saravok's Horn Helm. You gain dark vision and crit hits are reduced by 1. You can't be frightened. Constitution saving throw +1. It's just a super good helmet for pretty much everyone in the game. For cloaks, you can use the Cloak of Protection. You can use the Dark Urge Cloak. You can use the Cloak of Elemental Absorption. Just choose one that fits with the way you want to do things. The Flesh Melter Cloak will do a reactive 1d4 acid damage back to things, whatever you want. Just choose something that's fun for you. For our rings, you have the Risky Ring here, which is really cool. You gain advantage on attack rolls and receive disadvantage on saving throws. This one you're going to get access to in Act 1. No, in Act 2. You get it from the Drow in Act 2 at the Moonrise Towers. It's really cool. It's just kind of rough to have disadvantage on saving throws, but having just free advantage on attack rolls means you can always sneak attack. So if your Vow of Enmity isn't up, you can go ahead and use Risky Ring instead. Another really cool one, though, is the Killer Sweetheart, which just basically guarantees crit hits. When you kill a creature, your next attack roll will be a critical hit. Once this is spent, though, it refreshes every long rest. But some other really fun rings, Crusher's Ring for 10 movement. You're going to get that at the Goblin Camp. The Ring of Mental Inhibition just gives mental fatigue, so things are less likely to resist your spell effects on Wisdom, Charisma, and Intelligence. Freedom of Move, or Ring of Freedom, Free of Action, blah, blah, blah. The Ring of Free Action, you ignore the effects of difficult terrain and can't be paralyzed or restrained, is great. Ring of Regeneration, it's just free health. For amulets, we have the Amulet of the Harpers, which just gives us another cast of shield, which is cool. Advantage on wisdom saving throws here too. Probably the go-to one is the Surgeon Subjugation Amulet. You'll get this in Act 2 from the Surgeon. You'll know when you'll see him. Once per long rest, when scoring a critical hit on a humanoid, the wearer can paralyze the target for 2 turns. It's a really fun one. But once you do it, maybe you switch over to something like this, or again, the Amulet of the Harpers, or any other amulet for that matter that kind of leans in the direction of doing critical hit stuff. The Amulet of Greater Health is cool because it just gives us 23 Constitution. So now our health goes from 93 up to 141. So it's a huge advantage, right? It gives us a lot of durability. And I think that's, range slot. I've got the dead shot here because the number you need to roll a crit hit while attacking is reduced by 1. So with all these items on, that is, so it goes from 19 to 18 to 17. I don't think I have anything else that helps out with it on me right now. There are some other items in the game. I don't think I have them. But right now, we crit hit on a 17 or higher, which is a really cool capability, right? It's a much higher chance of actually triggering. Really, really, really cool. Have a lot of fun with it. Range weapon, though, again, I went with the dead shot for that same ability. Also, you can go with the Drakefire shortbow. You'll get an Act 2 from Damon. That is going to give you resistance to fire and cold, I believe. And you just use it for that, and it has a free haste. But that is your equipment here. Let's show off some combat. So let's show off some combat here and start off by showing you what you should do before jumping into combat. Or you can even do it at turn 1. Like I said, it is a bonus action. But Vow of Enmity, gain advantage on attack rolls. We cast it on ourselves. I'm going to go ahead and go into sneak. Don't even need to really, right? And just do this. And we're going to use Luck of the Far Realms to trigger a critical hit. And then, okay, yeah, I got you. We're trying to do an attack here, buddy. And then since we did that critical hit, we can go ahead and Divine Smite here. Why is that 2 different ones? Level 2 Divine Smite. And we could have done a paralyzing critical, but let's take a look at all that damage, Bob. And we surprised everything. So we did a sneak attack, and that did 47 damage, plus our necrotic damage. And then down here, we did 38 radiant damage, because again, that was a crit. So you can see that we just did a ton of damage. We opened up with a huge, what's it called? We opened up with a huge crit and surprised everyone. When we still have a whole other action we can do because we have that bonus, or we have the extra attack. Come over here. Remember, we have that risk attack, the Valve Enmity, risky attack Valve Enmity thing. So we can go ahead and do this. And we'll just do, sure, another crit. Okay, and we just blew that person up now too. And that was 46 damage. And just to kind of show you too what we're dealing with, the favorable beginnings, sweet stone and features, all these fun stuff that comes from all the fun stuff that we've got active right now. But dueling, +2 damage for the damage roll. I didn't even turn on like I had intended to, because I did it earlier in the video. Earlier in my playthrough, magic weapon, which would have added an additional +1 to all of this. But I meant to actually have that on, but neither here nor there. So 46 damage, then 6 damage, then 38 damage. So a ton of damage is capable with this character. And hey, I still have my bonus action of Dueler's Enthusiasm. Let's go over here. Oh, we have advantage again. And do that. Uh-oh, critical hit. Let's Divine Smite it. And we're just cleaning stuff up. 24 damage plus the 7 plus the 36. So we just get to have so much fun with this build. And I could have approached this whole fight a little bit more defensively and used blur, or I could have done a number of other things to kind of stack myself in a different direction. We could have opened up with Thunderous Smite, which is a bonus action and a primary action. I don't usually like to do those things, but I'm just saying we've got access to them. Or we've got access to Wrathful Smite. What I like about the Smite capabilities, even though they use actions and bonus actions, it's a great way for your character to tap into a resource of damage that you otherwise would not have access to. And because you're a Paladin, you can turn those on and off whenever you need to, right? Like, hey, you know, I'm coming to a location I actually need fire on right now. Let's go ahead and put this into the mix-up. Or this stuff right now takes a lot of psychic damage. We can pop that in with Wrathful Smite and then supercharge it with a level 2 spell slot. So this is something that you should keep in mind, that yes, you are not using your actual smite, but you still can get plenty of fun advantages of using any of the elemental flavored ones. And then as a rogue, if I go ahead and end this turn, let me see if this guy's going to shoot at me. Oh, this guy might shoot at me. He might shoot at one of the other casters. But as a rogue and Arcane Trickster, we've gone into the expanded spell slots and we've pulled in, well, not on me, unfortunately not. We've pulled in Shield. So now we have Shield as a reaction that we can use for this character to help us defensively. If someone casts a pretty nasty spell, if they want to hit a real big hit into me, yes, sure, Shield will tap into my resources as a Paladin, that I want to use those resources to... this right here. I want to use those resources to cast my smites. But in a hard press situation, if I have to choose between taking a really heavy hit or using a smite the next round, I'll probably dodge the heavy hit with Shield. So, and also too, the best thing about Shield is when you are about to be hit by an enemy, increase your armor class by 5. You just get that +5 there, and it's a nice way to mitigate a lot of that damage coming your way, and especially if it's Magic Missile, you just take no damage from it. Withering Cut is part of the weapon, just so that you know. When you hit a creature with a melee weapon, you can spend a reaction to deal additional necrotic damage equal to your proficiency bonus. So you probably saw that pop up. And we also didn't use Paralyzing Critical, which is from our necklace. So if this was a really hard humanoid that we were trying to take down, we could have actually paralyzed them there with all those chances to critical hit right from the beginning. So hopefully this build gives you a really exciting and fun way and a different way to approach Paladin that isn't just take 2 levels of Paladin and jam a bunch of levels, knock my protein shake all over, put a ton of levels into Bard and just go slam fuck something. Or maybe you just go a bunch of levels into Paladin. This is a different way to approach it, and I like it because it's a very fun, cool, thematic, crunchy way, because you are a little bit of a stealthier character, and no one expects the Spanish Inquisition. So if you have any other ways that you maybe build this character that are a little bit different, or ways that you'd approach this, that you maybe, hey, you know what? I've used a 2-handed weapon and this is how I did it and it's really fun. Or, you know, I went with a shield and this is the shield I went with because it gave me access to this. Like if I wanted to, I mean, Viconia's shield doesn't give me access to any weapon spell slots, but this one does. And your foes have disadvantage on saving throws to resist your spells or actions that inflict fear. And you can choose those things if you so wish. So, having that, because again, so wish through this, right? Abjure enemy, you frighten an enemy. So this, you have an advantage on frightening them, which is really, really cool. This works with that that shield. So have fun with this build, enjoy this build. It's just a different way to play. It is a stealthier way to play, but you don't need to stealth because you have so many ways to just turn advantage on for yourself. You could even just simply be up in the front line with your other fighting or barbarian characters and just be able to use sneak attack. Remember, you don't need to be sneaking, and you don't need to have advantage if you are within 5 feet of another target. So have fun with this build, enjoy. Let me know in the comment section below if you do it in a different way. But as always, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one and take care.